and welcome back. Amber here, and again joined by my friend Laura from A Brick Without a Wall podcast. And we are going to be talking about episode 208 of The Wheel of Time, a discussion about what was meant to be. And the finale is here. We have highlights, lowlights, all the lights. So let's talk about some of our favorite performances and maybe some of the characters. Is there anyone that stands out to you that you really were into this episode?
In episode 208, Egwene. I don't even like Egwene as a character. Like, honestly, she's not my favorite, but she had a really nice arc this season, which made me like her a lot more. But she had a really good episode in 206 and in 208. And I know that not everybody agrees, but honestly, that's your own fault.
I mean, true words. True words.
I mean, like, I know I've seen a lot of things online about how her power rating is not correct right now, but I've also seen a lot that says it's right where it needs to be.
It felt fine for me. Like, it felt good. Out of all of our channelers, like our young channelers, she's the one who has, out of all of them, the most training at this point. When we're talking about the power levels of the women, like in this series, Egwene is up there. Like, she is up there. There are not very many female characters who aren't Forsaken level channelers who are as high as Egwene. Take that for what you will. She's just been fast-tracked with all of her Damani training.
It fits for how they played it out in the show, too. We see her in her time at the White Tower, then we see her in her time with the Damani and her Suldam Rena. And everything that she's going through is just pushing her to be a better channeler. Yeah. And I don't think it seems out of place that she was able to power up a powerful shield. She wasn't fighting Ishi. That was a shield. She was just trying to hold it together for as long as she could to keep him from obliterating Rand behind her. I'll be honest with you. He had already resigned to what was happening. He was like, he told Lanfear, this is too soon. This isn't going to work. And Lanfear was like, no, it's going to work, friend. We've got this. And he at one point was like, nope, not going how I thought. So I guess we're just going this way.
Yeah, he really just pulled the ripcord on all of the Forsaken. Just like, all right, we're done.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, it didn't seem like he was really trying to fight Egwene. It almost seemed like he was trying to send something up over her that kept getting caught in the shield.
That's what I thought too. I thought he was trying to like shoot out like the signal fire for the Damani to gentle him. I mean, unless, you know, I get Rafe up here on the phone and he can tell me, hey, this is exactly what Ishamael was doing. Cool.
No.
What they gave us is what we saw. So like you can make a bunch of ideas based on it. But I don't know. That's fun for me. So I'm glad.
I thought I liked the way that they did it at the end there. They brought a lot of story, like a lot of arcs to a season 2 finale. I'm not saying the arcs are done with, but they really did wrap up the season like really well. A lot of questions were answered. Of course, more questions were created in those last final moments with the Mogideon unveiling. But I don't see why there's so much upset about Rand versus Egwene on power levels.
You know, it just seems like there's this need to equate powerful with actual channeling capabilities. Rand is at like the beginning of his story. He has so many incredible things later down the line. So I'm not worried about it in the least. Like thinking of all the stuff that he does, like
doesn't Rand spend like, what did I calculate? 71.4% of the entire 14 novel series as Billy Badass. Like,
I mean, for the most part, but it like fluctuates. It fluctuates.
Right.
Like, he goes through times where he's killing Forsaken and I don't know, sword fighting people, and then, like, he gets kneecapped there for a little bit and goes through his, emo phase, and then he goes through his, like, Darth Rand phase where he gets really dark and really angsty and slightly, much more morally gray. And then he goes through a Zen Rand phase. So it's like you've got all of these different levels of the character. And the actor who plays Rand has read the entire book series. Like he knows who this character is and where he goes. So like I'm not at all worried about the fate of our poor Rand over here not getting like enough like quote unquote cool moments, if you will.
I don't think it's just like the moments about him being cool. I think it's interesting that people are so busy complaining about how Rand isn't enough. Like the show's doing Rand wrong. They're diminishing Rand. They're diminishing who he is. He's the most powerful channeler ever. He is the most powerful channeler ever, which was basically handed to him by the wheel.
Right.
And then he also has a whole legion of Aes Sedai doing invisible work for him. Like everybody on the field works for Rand. I said this on Twitter, but Rand is the perfect example of a man who benefits from the invisible labor of women.
It's not wrong. It is not
Like,
wrong. I mean,
that doesn't mean I hate Rand because that's just how it was written, which is fine. But I'm not going to ignore that that's what's happening and be like, Rand's so cool. Yeah, Rand does a lot. And he has, I'm sure, very impressive arcs that are coming up. But also, Rand has an unending stream of support. He has an
right.
unending legion of people who want to help him. Look at Moraine. She is willing to literally give up everything in order to help him.
Yeah.
So, what more could people be wanting for him? He has like he has
Willie's on a
every
flaming Harley Davidson.
that would be
Evil
cool, honestly.
Knievel.
Like, give Rand a motorcycle and
That's clearly the only way to fix this catastrophe.
that is, we're just gonna have to take Rand to like ultimate badass status for people to be happy. And to me, it's just, I don't know how people are skipping over literally everything else that's happening, and that's the one point that they're focusing on.
He's got Moraine, he's got Nynaeve, he's got Egwene, he's got Elaine healing him, he's got Lanfear, like literally like
Yeah.
moving heaven and earth to get this kid the Horn of Valir and screw over one of the Forsaken. It's actually a really interesting talking point because I think this as like a whole theme within this story might go over the heads of some people.
Yeah, I mean, Lanfear is a good point to bring up because it's not just on the side of the light. He has people doing invisible work. He has women that work for the Dark One doing it. Like, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't Lanfear set him up with the person who actually teaches him how to channel?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. If that's not putting in work, I don't know what is. Like, she's creating enemies on her own team to help Rand out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't get the idea that Ishi's going to be pleased in his next spin up with her. We definitely didn't get the idea that Mogideon's a fan. She's off on her own doing stuff all for the sake of Rand.
How shocked were you with that end scene? Were you just like, what were you expecting? Was it anything like you were expecting?
I don't know if I was shocked, but I was really excited. It was like a really nice, I'd say almost cliffhanger to end the the season on. I'm really excited to see Mogideon as a character, but I also, for having not read the books, have an obscurely large amount of knowledge about the Forsaken and specific
Yeah.
like their specific realm of powers. And I think Mogideon's going to be a really interesting addition to what we already have going on. And plus, with Nynaeve being like my favorite character, of course we're going to need her direct adversary. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what happens with
This is
that.
This is one of those examples where I'm like, you know what? If this doesn't slightly lean towards like how it goes in the books, I might be a little butthurt over
Okay.
that one.
All right. So we might start book cloaking.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
There's two different ways to do cliffhangers. Like you have like the schmuck bait cliffhangers where it's like, oh, like someone died at the end. Are they really dead or are they alive? Find out in 2 years, you know?
That's
Like
tired.
it's not that. It's like the battle was fought, this side won, things are looking up, things are good. And it's like, oh, and we just brought in this new character who makes one of the top Forsaken scared. And I know it's not just the fact that Mogideon is there, that Lanfear is scared, it's that all of them are loose now. But still, that interaction between the two of them, that was pretty great. Like, I was not expecting the personality of Mogideon to be what it was. So at first I was a little taken aback, like did
Okay.
they make her like, oh, they made her full on banana pants? Okay, that's where we're going. But I'm here for the mess anyways. I like a mess watch, so
Oh, I love a mess from afar.
yes. Yeah.
I did expect something maybe a little different from her, but I was not displeased in what we got. And like you were saying about two different types of cliffhangers, I would rather them open a new door than make me guess for 2 years if someone's dead.
Right.
Well, I guess they did do that in episodes in 207 with Swan Sanche. Like, we don't know what's going on. I don't think she's dead, but we'll see.
I'm very curious to know what's going to happen with Suan, if her storyline next season will mimic her book storyline or if it will be something much different. I'm not going to get into the big spoilers here, but things could go very differently for her. And I think it's interesting that with this character, I think it really depends on what the actress herself is open to, because last
Okay.
season I feel like she had a bigger prominent role. This season her role was a little bit smaller. I don't know if it's due to prior obligations with other film or television shows that she's working on and that's all that they could get her for. So depending, I think, on the availability of Sophie Okonedo, that's where we can really think about what type of storyline she will get next season.
Yeah, that's a good point to make because I feel like there are some other characters that might fall into that bracket too of people that may not have huge storylines, and so we may or may not see them based on their availability.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we lost Tom for this season. He was working on something else, I believe, 1899. Doesn't matter. But I'm really excited to have someone like him come back because,
Yes,
oh, like, for one, like every high fantasy, like you need the bard, right?
absolutely.
You gotta have the bard.
Absolutely.
But in terms of like what it means for some of the other characters, he really does fall into that kind of realm of being, at least in the books, like slight comic relief, but also like a mentor and protector, but also kind of like this gruff, I don't know, a little bit sarcastic, moody element too. So he's really well rounded and just a
I
fun
like
character.
I like how dark he is as a bard. It's much more dark fantasy bard than other bards we
Hmm.
see in high fantasy. So I actually really enjoyed that aspect of how the show kind of rearranged the way he presents himself.
Yeah, same. I know a lot of people were upset about that. Like,
That
Tom's a
Technicolor
glee
dream
man.
coat. I look, if they rolled him onto set in that Technicolor dream coat, I would have been like, okay, I see we got like an expendable character here. Cool. I making somebody look absurd doesn't make me want to take them seriously as a character.
No, but people were really upset because they're like, "He's a gleeman. He should be bringing glee." And I'm like, "Oh, well,
Is he a gleeman or is he a bard?
yeah, yeah." Or
Because
is he a
I view him
bard
as a bard.
moonlighting as a gleeman?
Yeah, I view him as a bard moonlighting as a gleeman.
He's actually like a
Definitely.
spy moonlighting as a bard, moonlighting as a gleeman.
Yes.
So
Tom
I was
Inception.
just gonna say Inception, Tom. Uh, with this episode, for me, it really felt like this is the tipping point. Like season one felt like a dream. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
it feels like something totally different in my opinion. The tone is different. Like it felt like that was from like 20 years ago in my memory. But this season, where it ends up, felt really like you just finished the prologue of like a book and now you're like ready to like jump into the story. And for me, that's why I really love the Great Hunt book, because in terms of it like setting the pace for the entire season, I think that's where it stands out. Is it the best book of the series? No, but it's probably my favorite in terms of like what it means and how it feels to like finish that and be like, wow, okay, now we've got a story on our hands. Like now this is really moving somewhere. And I felt like the season really encapsulated that.
So I know that we had talked about this before, but it is something I wanted to bring up. And that was when I mentioned, I think it was yesterday or something, that it is pretty rare to see a fantasy series pull off a better second season than their first season. Most series, I'll be honest, tend to have their best seasons in their first season. And I could name off multiples. Let's look at like Dexter on Showtime.
Mm, yeah.
Season 1 is a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones, season 1 is a masterpiece. The Witcher, season 1, their best season. But The Wheel of Time is kind of doing this where season 1 was great. I very much enjoyed it. It's how I was introduced into the series. But season 2 blew season 1 out of the water in a multifaceted way. Like, not only was the CGI like multiple levels advanced from season 1, but everything about it was done better. The costuming and hair was better. I don't know as though I would say the acting is better. I would say that's pretty par for the course. They have really talented actors on the show. I hope that doesn't change. But there were like just the scenes alone, the coloring, the editing, almost everything you could compare between the two seasons. I would say season 2 probably did better.
Yeah. And I don't think it's even close either. Like
Yeah.
it's really
And
not.
that's not me hating season 1. I enjoyed season 1. Season 2 was just better.
Yep. I'd agree. I'd agree. And I think too, it really helps the story in terms of like bringing in new characters. I think
Yes.
I think this season really benefited from Ishamael, Lanfear, Varen Sedai. Like she was
Mm,
barely in it. Like she had a couple scenes here and there. Like she wasn't a main character, but like that's someone that's going to be incredibly fun to watch as things move forward. And her scenes were great. Like she had some good ones.
absolutely.
Leandrin back for season 2, always great to see Kate Fleetwood because she's wonderful. But even the younger characters, what I noticed in season 1, I think it's just like the newness of it all. Like you really got the feeling that some of these younger actors, like this is their first like big gig. And they were great. I'm not saying that they weren't good, but it feels like in season 2 they've really settled into the role and it doesn't feel as new anymore. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
they've grown a lot in terms of knowing who the character is and how they are and feeling safe in that role, like able to carry themselves and know and I guess just feel confident in it because Egwene was amazing. I'm thinking of Nynaeve and her story through the Arches, really good. Matt, we didn't spend a lot of time with, or Perrin, which Perrin, I'm okay with because I know with the next season, Perrin is most likely going to be like one of the main storylines. So like that's hard for me because I do like Perrin, but this season I was kind of like, I guess I know where they're going with it. It's fine. Would have liked to see more. Love the actor. But yeah, like all of these and we got a new Matt too, and he did great as Matt with it being his first like year as Matt, his first experience as Matt. So like, I
As
don't
much
know.
as much as I hate Matt as a character, the new actor brought that character to life in a much different way than the original actor did. And while they both brought him to life very clearly, I got to tell you, the way that the new actor makes like his facial responses to things are a 10. Like
Yeah.
the full blown crazy eyes. I love it. I
Yeah,
love
that
it.
that scene during
My
the tea
mind,
trip.
yes. Yes.
Yes.
My mind goes to like that one particular face. I
It's
don't think I can
very
replicate it.
it's very here's Johnny, you know?
Yes. That was a great that was a great moment for that character, especially as like a character I don't really enjoy their storyline for
Yeah.
personal reasons.
You really enjoyed his new weapon.
Dagger on a stick forever. Like that was the star of 208. That was that weapon. I I just want to say, like watching him knock that dagger onto the floor and then like jauntily tie it to a piece of a bed frame and then watch that become like an unbreakable bond with a rag was one of the best parts of the season for me, quite frankly. That was what a multifunctional tool that thing is. It can break through doors, it can end your enemies. Like, what can that not do?
It's got it all. I
It
don't
has it all.
For some reason, I feel like it's so fitting because, I mean, he looks like a hobo anyways. He's been wearing the same
Yeah,
outfit for 2 years, like, both seasons, hasn't gotten an upgrade, and he's basically like, I mean, tie a bag on the end, and it's like a hobo's bindle, like, really. That's
exactly.
exactly what it is.
It's
It fits.
exactly that. It does fit. It fits really well, but I just hope somebody steps in and like helps him fuse
Fortifies
the
it, yeah.
yeah, fortifies it, helps him fuse the two pieces together, maybe upgrades the stick. Who
Yeah.
knows?
We'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be interesting. Matt's a question mark for me because next season, I don't know where they will go with his character. Even if it
Okay.
follows the book lines of like the Shadow Rising, he's more kind of like off to the side. So I don't know. Maybe he'll end up on his own path. I kind of would like to see him stay with the main cast because he's been separated from them for so long. But if he and Tom have their, buddy cop wanderings around the Westlands, I'd be fine with that too, I guess. But with the way they've reshuffled different parts of the story, I'm curious where they could take him.
Well,
Eh,
he was kind of like that this season for me. He wasn't necessarily in the forefront of many episodes. I mean, yeah, we had the reveal that Leandrin's keeping him prisoner, then he
mhm.
breaks out, and then we have the parts where he's with Min and then with Ishi and then Pod and Fane. And now he's like reunited with his friends. I'm still mad at him for leaving Egwene sobbing in the garden.
Yeah, that was messed up.
Like, bro, don't show up and act like you're everyone's homie because we all know you're not.
I think it's funny too because, like, I don't know, like, how are they going to portray his story after him blowing the horn? Is he going to be like, "Well, that was weird," or is it going to, like, change him?
Okay.
I kind of feel like it's not something that's gonna go to his head. I think it's something that he's gonna be kind of, like, not ashamed of, but something he wants to distance himself from.
Huh. I'll be honest, I didn't think he was smart enough as a character to let it go to his head. Like, I just he's so whimsical and lackadaisical about literally everything that I just couldn't see it going to his head. He's just gonna be on to whatever his next train of thought is. That's just how he comes across to me. Granted, I haven't, read the books, so there is that.
Yeah.
You know who I'm interested in is like you had mentioned before. I'm interested in where Perrin's story goes.
Ah. Look, season 1, he kills his wife. Book Perrin doesn't have a wife. Book Perrin is introduced to his love interest. It should be happening any minute on the television
Okay.
show. Like,
All
it
right.
has to be coming in. So it's going to be strange, maybe not strange, but it's going to be difficult for them to introduce a character as a love interest when he's still like incredibly distraught over the
When he's still
losses. Yeah,
okay,
of his.
like still sad Perrin.
Right, right. But I mean, now, like, not only has he lost his wife, but he's lost Hopper. So is he going to be sad or is he going to be like mad? How is this going to shift for him in terms of how he sees the world and how he takes on, his next steps as a character?
Well, with how they played out the longest deaths of an animal character ever,
The close up
um
on the eyes, get out of here. That was just
I wanna I just wanted to turn it off, but I was like, "What is this? What is happening?" Like, I'm sobbing because we pan the camera, add a cut, please get me
right.
out of here. Like,
That was too
that
much.
was the most vile scene I think I can recall in recent memory. Like, I hated it. I hated it.
We've got Moraine killing
Uh,
horses, White Cloaks killing wolves. This is not a PETA-friendly show on our
no, but,
hands.
like, the way that Hopper died, like, what why? Why did you wanna that was worse than the torture scenes in 206. Like,
It
that is
was, it
the most
was.
painful scene, like I said, I can recall in recent memory. I don't wanna watch animals die. Kill as many humans as you want in high fantasy. To me, that is whatever. That's just how
Mhm,
fantasy is.
mhm.
But the animals, what did they do to you?
Nothing. It's crap,
Exactly, especially
crap.
him. What a delicate, perfect soul to have that happen to.
Right? Oh my god,
I'm still just outraged by it.
the scene where he comes running and you can tell the dog that plays Hopper was so happy, like he's
I
freaking just galloping through the halls or through the
those
streets.
those first scenes where they show those, like, wolf dogs
Mhm.
running through the forest, those they look so happy to be there. They're like, "This is just the best time ever."
Yep.
And
Uh,
then this, and then
mhm,
this.
and this.
But I am curious to see if this like creates rage or exacerbated like depression for Perrin. And
Yeah.
I hope that we get to see Perrin like pretty early on in season 1, like or not season 1, but season 3, even though it's 2 years away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. So let's talk about something different.
Yeah. We could talk about more rain.
Yeah. She had
Uh
some of the most beautiful scenes, like her channeling on that beach, like the water bond scene, her going aggro on the ships, like
it's the most
visually a 10.
stunning. Yeah, it's a 10. That was probably the most visually beautiful scene of possibly the season. I
I
mean, everything
agree.
about it was incredible to watch. I'll just be honest, her actions as, are not I don't I've seen that people are accusing her of being a dark friend, which I think is a wild stretch of the imagination.
Are we gonna have Law& and
I
Order, Brick
I
Without a
we
Wall
can
edition?
yeah, like, I'd like
Let's do
to
it.
declare myself as Moraine and Lan's attorneys. And okay, again, let me reiterate. I've never read the book, so maybe I'm missing some sort of code of conduct or standard operating procedure for the Aes Sedai. But isn't the entire point of the Aes Sedai to protect the Dragon Reborn? Like, isn't that the whole point to help the Dragon Reborn choose the light?
You would think, like, that's what they should be there for. Technically,
Right.
yes. Things have gotten
So
skewed for them.
technically, Moraine's well within her rights to defend the life of her warder or another Aes Sedai. Like, just because the verbiage doesn't explicitly say the Dragon Reborn, it's not a stretch to include him in that grouping. Like,
Right.
you really think the one power is going to judge her unfairly and be like, yeah, that's not what we meant here. I just or I guess it would be the creator. Like, I don't think the creator
It's
is gonna
the it's the oath rod, so it's like an oath they
right.
take as an Aes Sedai. Also
Obviously, the oath rod didn't punish her.
yeah,
So she must have been well within her rights. She has set precedents here.
Mhm.
I would imagine if we went through the Age of Legends, we could find some sort of precedents for Lews Therin and people doing things that, like Aes Sedai doing things that might be questionable in order to help Lews Therin because he is the Dragon Reborn.
Also,
And
also, Lews Therin was an Aes Sedai because in that time, in the Age of
oh
Legends, men
yeah,
could be Aes Sedai. So
Rand is basically an Aes Sedai.
yeah.
Rand is hypothetically an Aes Sedai. He may not have been like oath rotted in yet, but
Mhm.
it's eventually going to happen. I saw somebody say on your YouTube comments actually that, and this was wonderful, that Moraine wasn't actually aiming for humans, she was aiming for objects. So that also clears her of any wrongdoing. So
There's
as working in a team as attorneys for Moraine and Land, I would say that the court would have to say that she is not guilty of being a Darkfriend. Not whatsoever.
yeah. I think with Moraine, there's so many questions involved. Like, we don't know exactly. Just because she hasn't said a lie and just because she says that she cannot lie doesn't mean that she is still held by the oath rod. Like, there's always character misdirections and unreliable narrators in the books, and I would assume in the show. So, like, it's not a clear cut case for
Yeah,
me.
that's another point is we don't even know as though she's still bound to the three oaths by the oath rod because she made a new oath on the oath rod at the end of last season, correct?
Mhm.
Where all she does was like promise to follow Swan Sanche's orders. That's all
Yeah.
she promised to do.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know unless there is concrete confirmation where she tries to say a lie and her lips seal, like by the one power, something like that. I don't know. I don't know. You can have a character say like this is how it is. Misdirection and unreliable narrators, like that's and even to the Wheel of Time, the book series, full of unreliable narrators. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, I think it was, I heard Lindsay Ellis talk about this on one of her podcasts that you cannot go into judging adaptations based on their original canon material because they are never going to be the same thing. That is the point of an adaptation.
Yeah, it has to
And I
stand on
think
its
that's,
own.
yeah, it has to stand on its own. And I think that when you look at Wheel of Time from just an adaptation standpoint, it definitely stands on its own as a series. You do not have to read the books to understand what's happening.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. The
Yeah,
show is not
definitely.
gonna get popular because like, maybe a tenth of the show watchers who are book readers enjoy it. Like, the show's gonna get popular because people at home sitting on their couch who have never heard of this book series turn it on and are like, "Oh, this is fun. What is this about?" I'm sorry to say, and I mean, as a book reader, sure, like, would I enjoy certain of my favorite moments to be on the show? Yes, of course. Who wouldn't? But,
Right.
like, they're not making the show for me, Like, they're making it for, like, other people who don't have a clue what it's about. Honestly, I think too, like, the things that people would have been into in the 90s in terms of, like, what they read and what they watch is going to be significantly different than what they are today. So, like, some of the things that happen in the books, like, it's just not something that you can do one to one, I think, personally, and make it as approachable, I guess, for, like, a larger audience. So
I think that's a really good point to make. And I'd like to jump back to using Rand as an example here. If I had started watching this show and it was just basically Rand as Thor out of the
mhm,
gate where he's like godlike power, I would have been like, "Oh cool, that's just what another the world needs." And I would have
right.
moved on.
It's just
I
another Marvel
yeah,
movie.
and I think there's also something to be said that like when you read books that are written in prior time periods, there are going to be things that are considered problematic today that were not considered problematic back then. And I don't see a problem with the show trying to blend the two time periods together. If all you're
Yeah.
doing is creating a show that has nothing but problematic issues, you're going to inevitably lose viewers based solely on that. And I'm not saying it should just be based on what's going to make people happy. But if you want shows to keep going, like adaptations like this, they have to have more than just book viewers.
Right. Right. And I think the stuff that they did bring in from the books was good.
Absolutely.
So with episode 8, we had again this. I guess this is my like only real like complaint. And again, it's pacing and time. Like that episode probably could have went at least like I'm trying to pick like the smallest amount of time that I feel like it would have really helped a lot. If we had maybe another 10, 15 minutes in that episode, you have all of these like mini moments of climaxes, right? Like Perrin killing Joffrey, Matt blowing the horn, chaos with Elaine and Nynaeve, and she can't channel, and there's horses right like running riderless. Like it's just all over the place. And of course, like that's how you want it to feel because it's like a battle episode. You want that like adrenaline. But also there are time frames like or moments within this episode where I feel like you could have lingered a little bit on like one certain character just a touch more. I don't know what Amazon how they feel in terms of like retention because I some viewers just need to be like constant stimulation. Like look over here, look
Right.
over there, look over there. I don't have to be that way. Like I can I'm fine with maybe slower paced things. So it could just be a personal preference of mine.
Okay, so when you're talking about timing and pacing, if we look at like what the Audible book timings are for books on tape, let's just assume that that's like your average level reader. We're talking
Mhm.
about almost 52 hours of material that
For
is
book 2
being
and 3.
for books 2 and 3, which is that's what season 2 is adapted from, correct?
Yeah.
So we're looking at like 51, 52 hours of book material adapted down into 8.5 hours.
Yeah, something like that.
Like, because I mean, some of the episodes are a smidge over an hour.
Mhm.
So let's just graciously call it 8.5 hours. That is a huge reduction in time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if people like think about how much actual material that is and reading it in comparison to watching it in one
Mhm.
season.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to be super selective and pick out only what they feel like are the best plot points that keep the story moving in a way that everybody can understand it. So
Right.
while I do get that people get upset because I'm sure favorite parts of the book are left out or they feel like they're missing important information, it's they don't have a huge bank of time to even work with.
Right. And also, there's the fact that if you are just picking out like the most exciting moments where certain characters are on like their highs and their lows, like you can't just have the series be constant highs and lows. Like you need the middle ground as well. And like
Absolutely.
for me, the inclusion of these new plot points, for example, like Moraine and her sister, for one, Rosamund Pike is the star. You're not going to get a star for your show if you do not put her in all of the episodes. So we have to be reasonable here and have to assume that things are going to be created for her so that she has time. Secondly, you have to invent things that can connect the dots so that you're getting the character development instead of just like Rand doing wheelies on a Harley, being Billy Badass.
Wish he was.
Wish he was. But
Wish he was.
you
He
kind of
should
have
have
to
rode
connect.
that dragon.
Now I
That would
just
have
need
made
a
it.
motorcycle jacket that says the Dragon Reborn.
I think we should get matching ones at this
Oh,
point.
yes. Anyone out there, leather workers, let us know.
Let us know.
But I think like it's really, really hard to kind of plot everything out, make it be linear and have it make sense while still giving people the plots from the books that they like, while combining, getting this character from point A to point B with like all of those factors involved.
You know, there's, I'm sure, a lot of points in the books where you have time to learn like how on Rand's team Moraine is. But the plot line that they included with her sister was capable of fast tracking those concepts. Like, you got a very good glimpse in the Moraine, and is it Avir?
Anver, yeah.
Anver. The Moraine and Anver arcs together really solidified how down for the cause Moraine is. It also allowed for the reveal that Barthanes is a Darkfriend,
Mhm.
which may not have been as easy to just toss in there if there hadn't been the Moraine and Anver plot arc already happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like Darkfriends are going to be integral to the storyline down the road, I have to assume. Like,
They're
we've
all
got to
over the
start
place. Yeah.
yeah, we've got to start identifying key Darkfriend players, because like constantly springing new characters in out of nowhere with no basis sometimes gets like, I don't want to say overwhelming, but it just becomes the thing where you're like, okay, one more character
Mhm. Yeah.
type of thing. And I really like how they put a lot of focus into making sure that even the lower tiered characters for this season, like the ones who don't have as much time on screen, were still carried through.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point because look, like Barthanes, that could have been a hit and a miss. Like if you had not spent enough time with those characters, people would be like, "Who cares? This guy's a
Yeah,
dark friend,
nobody would
whatever."
care.
Mm-mm.
No one would care that his mother locked him in a cell and was like, "I've already ratted you out. Bye." Like, but the reveal of that with having the Moraine and the Anvir and the Barthanes arcs already happening was like, "Oh my gosh," she just was like, "Yeah, we're
Mhm.
not doing this. You're going to jail, bucko."
Right?
And his mom sold him down the river. I'm still thinking about that, how his mom sold him down the river. So while people may think it's like an irrelevant arc, to me, I was like, that added a lot to the overall story.
Right? I mean, too, it shows how cutthroat Moraine is. Like, there's obviously like many clues before that, but
Well, yeah.
here you have her sister who's trying to reconnect with her older sister, and like you can tell that there is love lost between these characters, and you can tell Moraine really wants to smooth things over and be, a good sibling and spend time with her sister, but she cannot let her sister get too close or know things that are going to put her in danger. That's really like what you were saying about how down for the cause she is. Like Moraine is paying the price for being involved in this, and she's paying out the wazoo.
With her family's name to start with.
Yeah,
And we would not have, like, as viewers, we would not have fully understood how important the Damodred name is to that family, and seeing it come back into its standing as important if they had just like kind of tossed all of that in randomly.
right.
Without that, without the Moraine and Anvir arc, there are so many areas of build up for Moraine's character that would have either seemed almost like clairvoyant
Mhm.
or almost juxtaposed in at random. Just
Yeah,
like, oh, we got to touch on this. Like I said, I like how they built that whole line out and kind of made something different out of it that speeds us through while still making the same points.
yeah. I think too, another one of these relationships within the story that I was caught by surprise with was the combination of all the scenes shared by Moraine and Lanfear. We start out with like the chase scene, or well, Moraine like slashes her throat, and then they get away, and then or Lanfear comes after them. Like we've got this whole cat and mouse thing going on. So I think they've really set up these two characters to have a really interesting story down the road, especially with an episode 8 where it's like I thought their little journey through the ways, like when that happened, I was like, okay, this is just bad. Like, this is just not, this makes no sense. That was a bad call. But then when I saw in episode 8 where Lanfear like boots them out and she's like, hey, raise the banners when it's time. And I'm like, okay.
I actually really ended up liking the Ways scene in episode 8. I know we had talked about like in episode 7, it was like, what's going on? When did Lanfear join the side of the light? Like, how did
Yeah.
she start double agenting? But then it like all made a lot more sense when we saw that scene in action and she was like, see you later, guys. Go do your
Right.
thing. Do what I
Right.
said, Moraine. Don't forget.
Too, there's a lot of people like really worked up about Lanfear saying light protect you, Randall Thor. But if you were an evil, okay, so like light, like the light protect you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're an
I
evil
thought she was
person and
I
someone
thought she was being
sneezes,
snarky.
yeah, but to me it was just like it's the equivalent of someone sneezing and you say like God bless you. Like you don't have to
Okay.
believe in God, but it's just like an idiom. So it's
Yeah.
like it's just something that you say where it has, it has like where the term originated from, like as a blessing. But at the same time, like when someone sneezes, you're not really, I mean, most people aren't really blessing you like from
True.
divinity, you know? So like I think that is kind of a silly thing to get stuck on in terms of wording.
I guess I kind of breezed over that.
Yeah,
Like just sailed right past it.
it's just like a it's just a
I thought
phrase
she
that people would use in this,
I thought she
setting.
was just being kind of snarky and haha.
Mhm.
Light protect you, Rand.
Right? Well, yeah, that's how I saw it too. Like it's not a literal
No,
like
I took it as her just being funny in her
yeah,
own way. Like she thinks she's funny, so she said that.
yeah.
She says all kinds of things. Like how do you try and pinhole that character into what she should and should not be saying? Because she says all kinds of things.
Yeah.
She's all over the map. She's working with everybody.
Mhm.
I actually like as much as I think she is deplorable as her character backstory is pretty deplorable for me. Just the whole like chasing a child around like that is no, thank you. But I am actually interested to see in where her character arc goes next. I have a feeling that the show made her a lot more palatable than she is in the books.
Yeah, I would agree.
Especially like the relationship between her and Ishi helped me soften my view towards her because
Same.
their dynamic is really engaging, even though it's like unhinged. I love it. I love their dynamic, their little belief that they're like fooling the other while
Yep.
I don't know what they have going on, but there's all kinds of weirdness happening between them, and I love that. And now she's got more Forsaken that she's about to like play, I guess, underhanded games with because Mo Gideon did not come to play around. She was
No.
like, I'm here, you're an asshole, and don't forget it. And I do like how Mo Gideon caught her by surprise because it would not
Mhm.
have been believable if she hadn't caught her by surprise and then was able to like wrap her up in a weave. That, from what I understand about them, that would have been believable. So like I do like how they introduced the element of catching a more powerful channeler by surprise because I have a feeling that'll be helpful down the road.
And it's so in line with her character. Like that's exactly where she should have been and what she should have been doing. Waiting in the shadows, waiting to spring a trap. Like it's
Like a spider.
perfect, no notes. But since we are
Exactly.
coming up on an hour, should we since it's you and you're here, this is what we like to do on Laura's channel. By the way, you should go and subscribe to it because you're missing out. Anyways, we like to vote for the Smog of the episode. Laura's favorite character
Oh,
is Smog.
I love Smaug from Lord of the Rings. What a perfect being. Belligerent, condescending, top level histrionics. Smaug is the most histrionic character in fantasy. I love it.
So we are going to tell each other what our favorite what our Smog of the episode is, the most theatrical character. I have mine that was easy.
Oh,
Easy
hmm.
for me.
I'm really surprised by who the first person that comes to mind is for me. And it's
Okay.
Matt.
Really?
Mhm. He did so much. There was so much histrionics coming from him in this episode. He's got dagger on a stick. He's fighting everybody. He's making new friends with apparitions. Like he's got so many things going on. And I just, as much as I want to say Ishamael because he's my favorite character ever, he didn't he didn't bring the same like je ne sais quoi as he
Yeah.
normally does.
He's more
He
of a
was
sad
very,
issue this episode.
yeah, he was kind of like a sad issue this episode. And who's yours?
Mogideon.
Oh,
Easy for
okay. No,
me.
that's a good choice too, because her scene I can like clearly recall in my mind. It was an incredible scene, but all I can think about is Matt running with that dagger at people and like the look on his face.
And you don't even like Matt. I
I
think
don't
if
even
I
like him. I'm like the head of the I Hate Matt Cawthon fan club. I am the president and CEO of it. But I'm gonna have to give it to him for episode 208. He really brought the theatrics.
Yeah, he did. I
So
know
did Mogideon though.
in an earlier episode, we were talking about the Horn of Valor, and I was asking you, who do you think was gonna blow it? And you were like, I hope not Matt.
I should have known they were gonna give that to him. I should have just known that like
I had to hide
because I
my face.
didn't
I
want
was
him to
like,
have it.
"Mhm."
Because I didn't want him to have it, I should have known that it was gonna be him.
Yeah.
Especially because he's just like he's like, "Oh yeah, I got this horn. Let me blow it." I do like how they took it from him that they were like, "That's ours. Like you
That's
can
enough
hand
for
that
you.
back.
You
That's
can't be
enough. You've had
trusted.
your time."
Yeah. Uh, I think I think that wraps it up. We should do another episode on your channel here in a
Yes.
few days. And yeah, last one we did was us ranking the Forsaken. So if you haven't watched it, go over to Laura's channel
You should
and check it
definitely
out.
watch it. It's highly amusing.
And with that, we will wrap it up. Thanks for so much for joining us, and we will see you back next time.